Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Pies Presser trade period day 3, and nothing has transpired yet on the Collingwood front. However, a lot of speculation and a lot of dead ends. It's time to talk all things black and white. Good evening, all. I hope we are all doing super well. Been a bit of a interesting trade period in the way things have not panned out. And I guess, we can go back 12 months ago and how much of an emphasis was being put on we're going to get a big fish in 2025. And look, to some clubs' credit, when you look at players like LDU, who was heavily linked to us, he decides to stay at the North Melbourne helm. So be it. Good on them for maintaining their guy, for keeping their guy. You look at Matt Rowell, all right, signed on for another 2 years. We'll see where that goes. I'm not completely sold that Rowell will be there beyond the 2 years he's signed on for. You look at Ben King, who's still in the picture. Zach Butters is still in the picture. Really, though, outside of that, next year, we're not seeing a large pool of free agents. So, what coming into 2025, maybe there was an expectation that we could secure a big dog. But then again, we were cognizant that this was possible. And we might just have to wait till next season to see if we can swoop a big fish. Because right now it's looking like Jack Buller and Jacob Blight potentially coming through. Guys, I am getting messages though as well while I'm here that my volume has been low. So I'm going to lift it up now and hopefully that's better than what it's been. But look, when you don't bring in players who are ready to go, you can make a point for the young guys who we really need to see something out of next year. We make a point that, hey, we did not bring in Clayton Oliver. Okay, Ned Long, Di Mattia, Ed Allen. Does Perryman come in? I'm looking at 4 of these players who can step up in the absence of not securing Clayton Oliver's services. So there's that, right? Who else is a part of it? Stephen May, same thing goes. Reef, mate, we're actually pretty comfortable with where we sit defensively. So Reef, when you come in, this is your chance, yeah. So I think what's the saying? One man's loss is another person's gain. So while it might be a loss for Collingwood, it's someone internally has a gain in being able to hold their position. Because reality is, guys, if Clayton Oliver comes to the club, which would have been of preference, yes, we still maintain that. It was still our preference that Clayton Oliver plays for the Collingwood Football Club. But it would take away from Ned Long potentially, but it would definitely take away from players like Di Mattia, Ed Allen, those players next in line who are I wouldn't say they're screaming at the selection table to say, hey, I'm an AFL player week in, week out. We're not there yet with either of Ed Allen and Di Mattia, but they're showing some signs, aren't they? Guys, the chat is going on. Everyone is carrying on like Buller is the answer, says Justin. I don't think anyone's saying Buller is the answer. I think he's a bit of an unknown. You can watch as much footage as you'd like on him, but until he wears the black and white, you just don't know how he's going to settle into the side. But I don't think the expectations will be massive on him. I think Charlie West is going to have more pressure next year than a Jack Buller, even if that's in the VFL. I think that's going to be more the case than not. So it is a good chance to see what our young players are made of. Yesterday, Manny, I'm getting Di Mattia in next year. Look, it's Ed Allen first. and then Di Peter G says, we saw Clayton's character today, and I know the club wouldn't have pursued him further. I would have loved the club to announce by some way of letting a journo know, hey, you know what? This Clayton thing, we're not playing this game. We're not playing funny buggers. If he wants to play for GWS, that's fine. But it sounds like someone in Clayton's camp is just, whether it's Clayton, because Fly said Clayton is hard to get a hold of. So for Fly to say that means this is Clayton's doing, not necessarily his camp, but someone's playing funny buggers in it, and I don't appreciate that. I said it in a video, and for those who haven't seen it, what I said about Clayton, after all of this has happened, the way he's reacted, the way he's spit the dummy, I just think, mate, like, you're 29. I feel like you've had enough life experience to understand that this is a business. This world you live in is a business, and you are expendable. So, I mean, mate, like, if people get upset in this one, mate, try the NBA. Try the NBA. One, you get traded without even hearing from the team first that you've been traded. I'm not saying that's the right way to go, but look at how those players react. More often than not, they know that's just the way it is. So the situation is a situation. That is what you have to deal with. So for Melbourne to at least have the decency to, when Stephen King gets employed as the head coach, at least you want to paint it this way, at least they have the decency to have a meeting and say, hey, look, Clayton, thank you for coming in during your holiday. We want you to play this role. Otherwise, we encourage you to look elsewhere. Well, and hey, guess what? We are even going to pay half your contract to the club that wants you. So I'm sorry, it can't be that way. And he being Clayton, gets in his feelings, makes a meal of himself at the airport, makes a meal of himself on Channel 7 interview, and then wants to go the extra step and be disrespectful to the Collingwood Football Club. That was the final step for me. That was the final straw. Just being disrespectful and seemingly not being transparent and not willing to have this meeting that we've been waiting on. We've been hinging on. So in the end, yes, we could. In the end, we could do without him, if I'm being brutally honest right now. Total disrespect towards our club, absolute clown. We weren't interested till his manager approached us. Funny that, isn't it, Mello? We weren't interested until they reached out. So at least have the decency to let us present to you why we think Collingwood is a good fit for you, Clayton. Benny, thank you for the 2, brother. Can get used to cutthroat Cass after Clary. Hey, when it needs to be said, it will be said. I won't hold back. Is it true Leper flew all the way to Sydney to no reply? I'm not sure about that piece of it all. I'm not willing to say that has happened. But at the very least, there's supposed to be a meeting. They can't get a hold of Clayton, so it is what it is. He can't handle it, Melbourne, bro. How will he go in Sydney? I think he'll be better off in Sydney. He will be. There's no doubt. We can't deny that. When we look at this from the objective lens, we say GWS is probably more suitable to where Clayton needs to be right now, because his head isn't where it needs to be. Leper flew up last night. Interesting. It's going to be a nothing trade period for us. I think, Dennis, there was always a risk there in that happening. Yeah, Jack Buller, okay, that's a trade, but I know most of you will say that's hardly a trade. But we don't know what his ceiling is. And then Jacob Blight's a delisted free agent. And we'll get some really exciting, and at least one very exciting player through the draft, and that's McCarthy. Thank you very much. Ooh, that's hot. Thanks, baby. And look, like I said earlier, Dennis, it's one of those ones where, yes, we don't bring anyone in, but it gives those players more of an opportunity going into this season. We're talking about all these VFL players, VFL, AFL listed players who just couldn't get an opportunity this year. And with players like Mitchell, who got opportunities ahead of youngsters, players like, wouldn't say Charlie Dean because there's no one else there. Markov, there's players who got chosen after Markov. They were considered after Markov. You got Will Parker, TJ, Jacob Ryan. Now, while I don't think these guys can be very good players, I think they can show a level that they belong at AFL level. Rocco says, don't say I didn't tell you. Lacks character, and any comparison with Luke Ball or Titch is a smack in the face to them. When I draw comparisons to Tom Mitchell, Rocco, with Clayton Oliver, I was just suggesting that Clayton Oliver is an inside bull and could play a similar role. I'm not character aside. Toby Green gives them a studs up kicks to straighten them all out. Yeah, that makes sense. GWS is where all the naughty boys go. Jesse Hogan, Jake Stringer. It's a bit of a safe haven, isn't it? Hey, look, and more power to them, man. Jesse Hogan, Jake Stringer. Jesse Hogan was incredibly troubled. Couldn't get it right at Melbourne and Fremantle. Goes to GWS and does his thing. So, look, I'm all for a redemption arc for any player. So it is what it is. Ella chronological. If not Butters, Humphrey will suffice. Come on, Leper, earn your money. G'day, Pies, footy diehards. Yes, we're all sick here. I actually listened to. What are your guys' thoughts on the AFL trade radio? I listened to it today for the first time. Normally, I'm just keeping an eye on Twitter. I'm like sickeningly just refreshing the Twitter page to see what's news. But today I was, you know what? While I'm working, play it as background elevator music and see what they actually talk about from 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. And it is a lot of rinse and repeat. Yeah, I didn't think much of it. I really didn't think much of it. Like, they are, the numbers are the numbers at the end of the day. Everyone wants to hear any piece of trade news. So the numbers would justify why they're live for nearly 12 hours. But yeah, I didn't get much out of it. Not as a Collingwood fan anyways. They go through all the old trade hypotheticals. You know, they bring up the steak knives, the Jack Crisp trade every now and every year. You're always due to hear throughout the AFL trade radio about the steal that was in that initial Dane Beams trade. So, and talking about Jordan De Goey. So, Kane Corns talks about Jordan De Goey today being a potential player we should look at trading for the right player. Can I just say, when John Ralph tries to create this narrative that the Saints have been trying to get De Goey this offseason, and also suggesting that his name has been amongst speculation amid this tumultuous trade period, I go, nah, that is piss poor journalism. Just trying to get a click to the web page to see that St Kilda haven't chased De Goey since 2022. All right, but at least we'll give Kane Corns credit here. Cornsy didn't say there's I'm linking this guy to this club. This is what we're hearing. It was a simple conversation of, for the right player, would you consider De Goey in a trade or a pick? So I don't mind that. Okay, fair enough. Live with that. Badri, what does band 1, 2, 3 mean when it comes to picks? So, look, I'll be honest. My head's not entirely wrapped around that one, Badri, but when you have a free agent who leaves the club, depending on the duration of the contract, the age of the player, and the cost of the contract, you will trigger a certain band of compensation. So band 1 will trigger like a first rounder. Band 2 might be a second rounder. Band 3 might be a third round. I'm sure someone else here will be will be more privy to explaining the situation. BP just heard from a source that the Saints have approached the Goey. Who was that? John Ralph yesterday. BP. Is that what it is? Clayton Oliver spoke with Collingwood list boss Justin Leppich today, but the Giants are well favoured to be his club of choice, set to make official call in next 24 to 48 hours, but all things tracking towards the Giants. Okay, so it seems like he's at the very least spoken to Leppich, but what does that mean? What does that mean? Anyways, I still think he's acted like a child throughout this whole process, if I'm being honest. Yeah. I don't hold back on that. And it might seem a belligerent on my behalf, but I still stand by it. The AFL is corrupt. I can't believe they're giving pick 2 to the West. Yeah, the free agency one's an interesting one. What happens, guys, with the NBA? Because it's always good to look at other sports to see how they deal with losing free agents. Let me ask Grok. Grok will do a good job. Grok is Twitter's ChatGPT. Do restricted free agents, do teams get compensation for restricted free agents in the NBA? Let's see. Leopard in talks with Sydney Sweeney now. No, teams do not receive compensation such as draft picks or cash for restricted free agents in the NBA. An RFA is typically a player who receives a qualifying offer from their current team. This gives the original team the right of first refusal, meaning they can match the offer, any offer sheet signed by another team to retain the player. The original team has 48 hours to match. If they match, the player stays. If not, the player joins the new team without any compensation. So you can either match the offer as a club, or in the NBA, you can either match the offer as a club, or if you let them go, you lose them for nothing. No compensation. However, in the MLB, which is the Major League Basketball, losing free agents can yield compensatory draft picks. Or the NHL, where offer sheets to RFAs trigger draft pick penalties for the signing team. The NBA's CBA explicitly states there is no compensation obligation for signing or losing RFAs. Exceptions for compensation: the only way the original team gets something in return is via a sign and trade, where the player signs a new contract and is immediately traded to the new team, which is optional and player team driven, not automatic. Okay. So I like the fact that... All right. Mark, give it a rest, man. Stop trolling. Interesting with how the NBA works. Obviously, it's not consistent across all American sports. But as the West Coast Eagles, who just won a flag in 2018, why are they getting priority picks? And yeah, I think something to do with the free agency next year will need to change. I think if you can't hold on to a player and they want to go somewhere else, that's the way it goes. Look how compromised this draft is when you throw in free agency and then academy bids and everything else. It takes away from the draft, doesn't it? And then we're going to throw in Tasmania into all of this as well. So the draft is just not going to have the same type of kick anyways, is it? NBA model shits on AFL. Yeah, I think I like the NBA where, one, the club has a great level of power in their position to trade players for what's best for the club. I think the overarching makeup of the club is more important than what a player wants. All compensation picks should be at the end of their rounds, not the team's first pick. Yeah, maybe that's another way to go about it. Did Manny exercise it? NBA clubs are private owned, bro, not by the members. That's why they throw players around left, right, and center. Because I'm not really opposed to it. I'm really not. I don't mind the power being in the clubs to make the best decision. This is the worst draft in a long time. Gary Neville. Gary Neville. We love Gary. I love listening to him. Chronological. I find it crazy that West Coast got an assistance pick 19 and then pick 2 for Oscar Allen leaving. You know, if we go back 2 years ago, guys, we asked the question, is Oscar Allen ever going to leave the West Coast Eagles? 95% of us were saying, no way. He's homegrown. He's captain of his childhood club. There's just no chance. So is that on West Coast or is that on the AFL? It just, to me, that's a bit of a head scratcher. This guy in another lifetime there's no way known he's leaving the West Coast Eagles. No way. But because of where the club is at, because of the way he's perhaps been treated as well, that's why he's leaving. But in another world with just, if things went differently, there's no chance he leaves. Do you know the minimum AFL wage? I think rookies or draftees sit around 120. What is the minimum wage on the AFL CBA? I'm pretty sure rookie A is like sitting at 120. Something like that. Let me just double check. Elijah Hollins is a name that's being thrown around. But there's just, I find it unlikely, guys. Look, that's the illicit free agency, isn't it? I mean, Mitch McGovern is somebody who doesn't have a contract at Carlton. So I'm not entirely sure. I'm not entirely sure, like, with the likes of an Elijah Hollins, who, truth be told, had a lot of off-field issues that we don't really know what happened or what's been happening. So there's that. And I can't say I know what this player is like. Not fond of the NBA model. There's not enough money in AFL to trade players on a dime like in the US. Okay, so let's clarify. As of 2025, fourth year players and beyond roughly get $145,000 per season as a minimum base payment and then a senior match payment of $5,000. For first year draftees, depending on what pick you are, you can earn anywhere between $115,000 compared to $140,000 if you're a pick inside the top 10. What about rookies? Let me ask, what about rookie listed players? Holland loves the bag, says Jay-Z. Rookie listed players are typically players not selected in the national draft. We know that. First year category A rookies, which aligns with the national draft picks that are selected beyond pick 51, earn roughly around $115,000. And in their second year, can earn with a $115K base with potential increases based on games played in the previous year. So if they play 18 plus senior games, they might earn an extra 60 grand. Anyone else feel our recruitment team has failed dramatically this offseason? Chasing Oliver when he didn't appear keen, screamed of desperation, looked like we dropped. See, Gunnar, I felt like we had to ask the question of Clayton Oliver. We turned our backs on Stephen May. I don't think we've dramatically failed. I think some players they've turned the shoulder on other clubs. Like LDU, we wanted him, yes, but he signed on at North and he ignored other clubs. Jack Silvani, we didn't want to overpay him for him, relatively speaking, right? So he goes to St Kilda. Matt Rowell says no to a bunch of clubs to sign on at Gold Coast for 2 years, right? So who else have we really been targeting that has said no or gone elsewhere And if you didn't think going into this trade period that it probably wasn't going to be massive, like we're talking about Bailey Humphrey and Zach and Zach Butters, but if we're being realistic about it, it's probably something that's going to happen next year, not this year. MLB is the best, Major League Basketball. No restricted free agents. If you let a player reach free agency, they are gone unless you outbid everyone else. You need to be strategic, and most players get traded the year before. So pre-agency, right? Pre-agency is a thing here as well, JFR. And I agree. If a player gets to an end of a contract, they should be able to go for nothing, unless they get unless your team matches the bid, right? If the team matches the bid, then maybe you force a trade. But if you don't match a bid, you shouldn't expect compensation, because I mean, you don't really want the player. You just want the compensation pick, which I think is a little bit you're flirting with or manipulating with the way the system's set up. This isn't a failed offseason once again. People were far too acclimatized to having big names come in. We've had a pretty good couple last off seasons, right? Lockie Schultz has been good. Membry was good. Perryman finished top 5. Okay, Dan Houston, we'll find out. You want to go back further, Billy Frampton, Patrick Lipinski, Tom Mitchell. All these players have hit. And yes, while we haven't gotten a big fish, that might come next year. But the way I see it, it's not a failure. Yes, we would like to bring in Clayton Oliver. We would have liked to bring in a Jack Silvani. But what it means is we're going to find out about the bottom 15 of our list. The bottom 15 of our list are going to get a big opportunity next season in some ways. MLB doesn't even have matching. While they're a free agent, they're not a part of the club. Yep. Major League Baseball. Yep. Collingwood basically got cucked by Clary chasing up to Sydney while he was with another coach. Well, what I'm hearing, Fraser, is their manager reached out to us. So they can't be pulling a reverse cuckery on us. There's no way. They're cucked. They're cucked because they reached out to us when Clary was looking for options. They're cucked. We were just being honest in the conversation. Hey, you want us? All right, let's go have a meeting. Yeah, righto. Righto, Chris. It's not desperation if we're just trying to improve the list. Exactly. Essendon supposedly won a trade period the last 5 years. Where'd that get them? The Farm, how are you? Manny says, Yanni says Gary Neville is like worse than Kane Corns. Oh, I don't know about that. With how side bottom ended the season, not sure how long he will be in the best 23. I thought he had a good decent end to his season. I think he had a cold period, like most of the team. I think society will play a different role next year to allow the next generation. But if based on this season, I think Saidi is still a best 23 player. Whether we use him like that is another question. But he's definitely a best 23 player in an AFL side. If we get Butters next year, watch us hit well next year. Guna, exactly what I said. Lepich is too slow. Almost lost Jamie because Leper is too slow to react. Don't know if I agree with that, Dom. Calling it desperation, I'm sure there would... All right, let's do a poll, because you guys... Maybe some of you seem a little bit conflicted. Oh, there's a new feature here. Schedule your live to switch to a members-only stream. Okay, interesting. Start a poll. Is this a failed off-season trade period for the Pies so far? I think no. My answer is no. Okay. But I want to see how many people actually think this is a failed trade period so far. Dennis said, Pat Lipinski should be in the VFL and we should elevate someone else. I think there's still value in Lipinski at AFL level, absolutely. I think players like Rowan Steele are going to ask the question, for sure. And if Josh Dacos moves on to a wing, then that will also ask the question of Lipinski. Not saying his spot is solidified, but I certainly think he will have some players who want to think that they can offer more in the position that Lipinski offers. We need Buller and someone then would be a pass. So Josh, is Buller and Blight enough for you? We will play quite a few kids next year and see what they have. And that's what we'll find out at the very worst. It's too early to judge. Things happen late. Bruno says the trade period isn't... And Matthew, is my microphone audio better? The trade period isn't still over, so stop whinging or let's just wait and see. We are a huge club and bigger than all the bullshit and players that don't want to come. Cass will never budge on Lipper. Hella chronological. It's not failed. I mean, you guys will be pissed if we paid Jay Sauce what the Saints are paying. Hey, look, and Sylvania at that price might be unders by the end of it all. But in this position with our side being the number one defensive side in the comp, I don't think they were willing to pay overs for another key defender. I'm not saying it's failed, but if Leper wants a player or a player to stay, jump on it before they have a chance to look elsewhere. Well, we secured Jamie Elliott, Dom. Like, who else have we lost, so to speak? Who have we lost, Dom? It can't be a failed trade period as we never really promised anything besides Buller. Oliver wasn't even in our plans until last Friday. The lives are fine. Okay, so it's more so the pre-records. Buller, someone, then Blight as a DFA. How do you rate our chances next year? It feels like everyone got better and we have slightly declined. Just sucks that I feel we can't win it next year. I think realistically right now, JFR, I think we're a bottom of the top 8 side. And we might have to live with that. I'd hate for it to get worse and worse year on year. But I trust that this club just knows how to stay competitive. We just secured Elliott. Well, look, maybe the club were just waiting to see. Yes, there's a risk in doing this, but they were waiting to see, okay, well, what are other clubs going to offer? So Gold Coast did their offer. Collingwood essentially immediately counter-offered, and then Elliott settled. So while I wouldn't personally do that, that is definitely a method of negotiations that Collingwood or teams would do. Update, Buller is staying at the Swans. We have got no trade players. What do you mean? All we need to do is bring in a suitable replacement for Checkers. That's the break even. Right now we're unders. Well, potentially Jack Buller, but I also think Charlie West can fill that void. Not to the level of Brody Myercheck in his second year, of course. Anthony, for teams that are not looking into youth players and promoting them to the first team, we're very hard for them to find success, so the players need to sort themselves out. I mean, Yanni, we just lost to the reigning premiers who went back-to-back in a prelim final. We're not far off it. And I refuse to believe that the fall-off from one year to the next is going to be... I refuse. It can happen. You look at prelim 2019 into 2020. It can happen. But I think our list, 2020 versus now, is better. So I have reason to believe that hopefully, this is all hope, and we could be wrong, but I want to reserve the optimism that we will be in the top 8 next year and we won't fall off. We will be like a Geelong. We will be like a Geelong who have an old list and can bring in players through different means, not just the draft. We can also be like a Brisbane who had 8 players under the age of 22. They've shown us a new blueprint. Not new, but definitely a blueprint. Weren't Collingwood the youngest side, second youngest side in AFL history to win a flag in 2010? We made a grand final in 2011, made another prelim in 2012. But after that, we really struggled. You would have thought we were dynasty bound. So just because your list is young doesn't mean you're going to do well even if you've won a flag at a young age. And it goes the other way. Just because your list is old doesn't mean it's going to fall off the cliff. This is the way you must think as a Collingwood fan, no? Do I see Fly coaching us for the next 10 years? Asked Tim Van Coilenberg. I don't think so. I think there was an interview at some point in 2023 that he knows this isn't going to be a forever job. Dom, I think the Buller deal has taken a back seat because their priority right now is Charlie Curnow. Collingwood don't have cliffs. We have drawbridges. You know, I've heard that word drawbridges, and I'll admit, I don't even know what that means, so I'm going to search it up and add it to the old vocab. A bridge, especially one over a castle's moat, which is hinged at one, and so that it may be raised to prevent people crossing or to allow vessels to pass under it. What is the meaning of drawbridge? A bridge made up to be raised up, let down, or draw. So it's like this. To be raised up, a drawbridge. Is that what you're saying? We're going to... Explain to me. Am I understanding it right? Yeah, Curnow I agree with you, but I wasn't talking about recently. I was talking about the Pies in general. It's because Swans are trying to get a future second round pick for Buller, which is overs by a long way. So maybe they want a future second of the Pies. What you're hearing, Guna? Where'd you get that information from? What's the feedback on the poll, by the way? It's 50-50, 62 votes. Is this a failed off-season trade period for the Pies so far? Wow, 53% of you say yes. And 47% say no. We can't be so naive to think the list management and selection teams don't see what Geelong and Brisbane have been doing and the success of injecting younger players. We will do the same. I think that's the only option we have next year, Cooper. So we live and die by that, don't we? With Pendles entering rarefied air, can mount a case for him starting this season a few weeks after the season begins to ensure he gets through the season, perhaps? I mean, he played a bunch of games this year, and we probably didn't expect him to hit the amount of games he managed to play. Same goes for Sidebottom. So, who knows what they do next season? Yeah, Fraser, I think it's realistic to think Bo could become a 20-touch player and kick a goal and pinch hit through the middle. Bailey Humphrey just followed the Collingwood Instagram. Where'd you see that? Pending, Humphrey? Where are we seeing this? GWS hasn't been formally told yet, but its players full expect to be playing with Clayton Oliver next year. It makes so much sense for the player in the club. The meetings with officials have gone exceptionally well. Give it a rest, man. Give it a rest. Swoop posted it. Okay. Interesting. Yeah, righto. Thomas says, if we get Buller this trade period, it's a huge win. Darcy Cameron type of move will go under the radar, but he'll be pivotal in our next flag. Hope so. There's got to be some way we can get Humphrey. Got to be some pieces. Well, I think he's leaning on family reasons, and maybe that gets you somewhere. Am I a fan of leaning on family reasons? Unless they're like exceptional, and let's say one of his family members are unwell, you can certainly justify that he should be able to move back home. That's probably the opinion I share. And it seems like Dimmer has some empathy for the Bailey Humphrey situation. So let's hang tight. People were saying he's been following for ages. I mean, that'd be risky business. Put it this way, right? If Bailey Humphrey has followed the Collingwood Football Club, their Instagram in the last week, that's risky business on Humphrey's behalf. DeGoey and someone else and a pick for Humphreys. Could be. I'm never opposed to throwing in someone like a Geordie DeGoey into a trade if it means we get something really good back. Peter G says, okay, Oliver is going to meet us tomorrow. He flies to the US on Friday. It seems like a sure thing though, doesn't it? It seems like a sure thing. He's like 90% going to GWS at this point. Humphrey's not worth three first rounders like they claim on Trade Radio. Yeah, I wouldn't say he's worth 3 first rounders right now. You can't. I don't think you can offer 3 first round draft picks on potential. Some clubs. Here's the thing. Some clubs would be willing to give up 3 first rounders. I don't think Collingwood would be in that position. Definitely not. Trade week is Christmas for footy journos. Be careful what you read is happening. Be careful what you read is happening. Pendles has said he wants to go somewhere else to learn. So Fraser, Pendles said he wants to take a year off once he's done and then get into a coaching capacity. So we'll see where that lands. Dacos is gone in the next 2 years. Watch, we're piss fighting around, not getting ready for the next 5 years. And Nick won't stay around for the bad times. Yeah, I don't know if we need to have this Nick Dacos conversation just yet. I think this has been simply just been the anxiety and the conversation around it has been has risen because of Cal Toomey mentioning that other clubs have asked the question, and I think people were worried that because he got second in the Copeland Trophy and because Tassie are coming around, there's some fear around Nick Dacos leaving. And guys, it can happen. And in the end, guess what? If Nick leaves, we will be remunerated in a big way. Okay. Now, can you get a Nick Dacos for a Nick Day in exchange for Nick Dacos? No, of course not. But we'll cross that bridge when we need to get if we need to get there. Yeah, that's a screenshot. That's a screenshot on Yo Benny. Channel 7 just announced Oliver snubbing Collingwood, probably. Peter just said he's meeting with Collingwood tomorrow, so I don't know what to take. It's because to turn aheads this year need to offer overs as well, as we'll always get 2 first rounders, so would have to be 3 this year. If we look at how the Ablett trade went down and how he spent 10 years winning nothing, I don't worry about Nick leaving or ruining his career. Well, that's the thing. Plus, if Nick wants to go somewhere else after the Tassie Devils, for example, he's going to have a hard time leaving that club. Speaking of 3 first rounders, yeah, right? That's 3 first rounders right there. Nick will never leave, but you better believe his next contract will be enormous, whether he's at Collingwood or Tassie. The thing is, he's contracted till, 2029? So, we'll see. We'll see. I mean, thankfully, we don't have to worry about that contract just yet. Nate Koss will not leave the Pies. We would have to completely drop the ball for that to happen. Man, I mean, if he wants a life... yeah, look, we're not going there. I'll leave that to mainstream media street with what they're doing at the moment. Like just seeing right now, Brad Johnson. Would Collingwood accept any of these trade ideas for Nick Dacos? I don't even want to press play. I don't even want to press play on it. I'm not bothered. And if it happens, we'll deal with that when it comes, okay? Nick will be re-signing in 27 for a 8-year deal. So you can renegotiate while you're in contract, can't you? So there is that. Captain Nick not leaving. Screenshot it. Make him the captain. Marry him to the club even more than what you could possibly first think. And there you go. Gee, I'd not worry about it regarding what's being said about Nick. Absolutely, yeah. De Goey is going to St Kilda. Chris Talbot, where'd you get this from? Any news on who the Pies are now looking at as our forward coach? We talked about the prospect of Troy Chaplin, but I think Melbourne are doing their best to try and keep him. De Goey is going to St Kilda. Chris, careful, mate. Darcy Cameron, Craig McRae says the process for the Magpies' best and fairest could be reviewed. All right, this is interesting. Craig McRae says he would like improvements to AFL's Brownlow voting and Collingwood's best and fairest format. Maybe it was taken that I was disrespecting Matty Rao, which is completely not what I said. The AFL process can be improved. That's maybe where I was targeting the 16 possessions. Fair. I look at our best and fairest. We have to look at it ourselves. We have to keep improving ourselves all the time about how we conduct the game and what the game looks like. The process is in place. I always want to challenge it. Darcy Cameron is a great winner, but I look at the process and there are times when Nick could probably get more votes here and there. Collingwood season ended with the blah blah blah. It's probably the toughest watch I've had in all my career. Just knowing how we were playing during the year, the emotion, that feeling, and how we had the feeling we had as a group. So this was speaking at the launch of the Caulfield Cup Carnival, where they are ambassadors. Okay, there you go. Interesting. Yeah, Chaplin said he's already staying. Do you think if Collingwood knew Myercheck was leaving, we shouldn't have played him? Nah, you got to play your best available, Baz. You have to play your best available. I did see a post though, and honestly, I don't mind it. If a good offer comes for De Goey, we should accept. I think you got to be real about the situation, and if there's a really good offer coming back the other way from De Goey, Butters has requested a trade to Collingwood. Don't you troll, Chris. Don't troll. Don't be frank, man. Don't be frank. You guys are killing me, man. I meant, is he going to St Kilda? Ah, Chris Talbot. That's a cheeky one, mate. Frank, Chris. So many people just gaslighting me tonight. Is Jacob Blight going to sign? What are the chances at the moment? So, delisted free agent opens for a couple of days next week, D's, and then also after the draft. So, we wouldn't be signing him right now because we're not in delisted free agency period. Chris needs a timeout. Lift. He's trolling. Chris is trolling. Liar, liar. Liar, liar. I swear 14 other teams would have liked to have made a prelim, yet we're acting like we're a struggling club. Look, the good thing, Voido, is we do have a high standard, don't we? As a fan base. We hold this high standard. Yes, we made a prelim. Yes, we made a prelim, and we're always looking to find ways to improve. It's all good. Chris is joking. Chris is joking, the clown. Yeah, you'd like to think Fly would want to keep those comments about the polling inside within the four walls. Because you're almost saying, yeah, well, maybe Dacos should have won the BNF as well. So, I don't know. Interesting that, isn't it? When's the Lego coming, Benny? Yeah, when Chris said Zach Butters requested a trade to Collingwood, I just started refreshing Twitter like I have Tourette's or something, or OCD, pressing the refresh button. Yeah. I don't want to be like Carlton. We're doing our best not to be like them. I think we're pretty far away from who they are as a club, where we stand culturally, right? Feel like there's a smoky. There's always that in the back of your mind, isn't there, John? Like, you hear all these rumors about we're having meetings with Bailey Humphrey. We're asking the question of Zach Butters. So if they give us the green light, then it's like, all right, Jordan De Goey, Bobby Hill, what are we saying? Where are we going with these players now? That's when I think those players who are considered staying at the club are thrown into consideration. He had a chat. It seems like Oliver had a chat with Lepage, whatever that means. What's the Buller situation like? I think Sydney have got bigger fish to fry right now with Curnow. And then I reckon Buller, at this point, we've heard nothing about Buller this week. So maybe it's because the trade period window is open till next Wednesday. So we probably won't know much more, or probably won't see that till next week. I was more confident in trade when Graham Wright was around. Well, I mean, I feel like Leper had a really good first trade draft period, right? So he's a part of all of it, right? He's a part of his list management, so trade and draft. You look at Charlie West, looks like he's going to be a steal. Will Hayes has played AFL games already. You've got Cochrane, who I'm really excited about personally. And then Membry was a steal on delisted free agency. Kicked 30 goals, was extremely accurate in front of goals. And then you look at Perryman, who's top 5 in the BNF. I think he's a really solid player to build into the culture, to continue with that. And then Houston, yeah, okay, we'll find more out about him next week. Next week. I wish it was next week. Next year. It's a flop for now, Rick, but Lockie Schultz was also considered a flop by a lot of players last year. So, Swans might use Buller in a 3-way to get Curnow. Maybe. Although he's out of contract, so he goes where he wants to go. He's nominated to Collingwood. I hate the media, says Chris Talbot. It's interesting, isn't it? AFL media. All right, guys, we'll call that for tonight. We're going to do Pies Presser at 5:30 tomorrow. I've got family dinner, so 5:30 Pies Presser, trade period, day 4. Hopefully there's a bit more news, but like I said, we always bring the conversation regardless of news or not. We're not dependent on external factors, are we here? I appreciate you all, and as always, ladies and gentlemen, go Pies.